Most of us do not achieve our New Year's resolutions, and I'll share with you some really, really scary numbers. Do you know that according to studies that 23% of people, 9% of people who set out to do their New Year's resolutions actually achieve them? But there are some parameters, there are some things that those people do that are much different than the rest of the world. When we tell somebody else, I'm going to do this thing over the next 7 days, and then we have to meet with them a week later, guess what? Percent success rate of actually executing. It's supposed to be the time of giving and joy and happiness, but for a lot of us, that's not the case. And in fact, the way to get to 95% is to have a... Well, here we are. It is that time of year again. We are knocking on the doorstep of 2025. And it really doesn't matter when you guys are hearing this or watching this. You know, New Year's resolutions, they can be really, really tricky. But as I'm recording this, we are a week away from January 1st, 2025. And chances are you've got some awesome New Year's resolutions, some great ideas, some things you want to do this year. And I want to set you up for the best success possible. And I'm going to share some information with you that you might not know. And you might actually be looking back at years past. I know I have, where I'm just like, man, I set out to do something, or I set out to do some things this year. And a month later, I'm like, what did I even commit to? I had maybe that health goal, or I had that business goal, or maybe that thing I wanted to do with my kids. What was it? I don't really remember. You're not alone. Most of us do not achieve our New Year's resolutions. And I'll share with you some really, really scary numbers. Do you know that according to studies that 23% of people that embark on a New Year's resolution where, man, this year is going to be different. It's going to be new. I'm going to do this thing. 23% by January 8th have completely forgotten whatever it is they're going to do. Maybe they haven't forgotten, but they're not doing it anymore. So 23% abandon their New Year's resolution. Here's the scary thing though, too. 43% by the end of January will have completely abandoned their New Year's resolutions as well. And according to a study done by Forbes, by the end of February, 80% of people have completely abandoned their New Year's resolution goals, right? Here's the good news. Well, maybe not good news, but 9% of people who set out to do their New Year's resolutions actually achieve them. But there are some parameters, there are some things that those people do that are much different than the rest of the world. But before we get into what those things are, let's just talk about what the last 6 weeks of every year looks like for people. This is supposed to be the happiest time of year. And what I mean by that is it's the time between Thanksgiving and Christmas. People are seeing family. They're eating foods that they're not normally eating throughout the rest of the year. It's supposed to be the time of giving and joy and happiness, and all that's great. But for a lot of us, that's not the case. And in fact, this is a stressful time of year. Financially, it can be hard. Seeing family members that we're stressed out by might be difficult as well. Not to mention the fact that we're drinking more alcohol, we're eating more foods that we're not used to, we're getting less sunlight because it's colder outside. It's a recipe, quite frankly, for mental health disaster, but it's supposed to be the happiest time of the year. The funny thing is that what no one ever tells you is all of these things kind of set us up for a bit of a disaster. And then what we're doing is we're looking at January 1st as like, man, I can't wait to get out of this hole that I've kind of climbed myself into from a health perspective, a mental health perspective, emotional health. I just want to do something different. The other thing too is a lot of people, what they want to do is they want to do something different, but we just don't have the recipe. We don't have, the parameters to do it. But here's the good news. I'm going to share with you how we can do this better. And I'm going to share some more statistics with you guys. Years and years ago, the American Academy of Coaching and Development did a study on success and accountability and all these different things that we're talking about. So here's some staggering statistics and ones that might surprise you, but at the same time, they'll probably give you a ton of clarity. So if you really want to go out and do something, let's just say, hey, you want to go out and get healthier this year. Maybe 2025, you want to get in the best health and fitness of your life. You want to get in the best shape you possibly can. Here's the problem with that though, right from the get-go, it is not specific. So people who have an idea, let's talk about that. You have a 10% success rate. According to this study that was done by the American Academy of Training and Development, you have a 10% success rate if you just have the idea. So if you have an idea, I want to get in the best shape of my life in 2025, you have about a 10% success rate of making that happen. And why is that? Well, it's really not specific enough, right? If we want to ratchet that up to higher success rates, 25%, does that sound any better? It sounds a little better, but it still sounds terrible. But the difference between 10 and 25% is that if we decide that we are going to do it. It's like, okay, I have this idea. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. Maybe I'm not, you know what? No, I'm going to do it. I am absolutely going to do it this year. Well, since you've made that die-hard decision, you've ratcheted up your success rate to 25%. Now, if you don't like 25%, and I don't either, how about 40%? 40% is better than 10, it's better than 25. It's still a failing grade, but 40%, there's one thing that's different there, which is decide when you're going to do it. And what I mean by that is, let's just say you want to get in the best shape of your life. And let's just say that getting into the best shape of your life is losing 30 pounds. And if you decide, hey, by April 30th, I will have lost 30 pounds. Well, guess what? You've made the decision. You've decided you're going to do it. And now you've put a deadline on it. That gives you 40% success rate. So 30 pounds by April 30th sounds good to me, but it's still a failing grade. So if you want to ratchet that up to 50% success rate, you've got to put in the how. It's like, okay, by April 30th, I want to lose 30 pounds. I've decided I'm going to do it. I'm going to count all my macros. I'm going to stay within 2,100 calories. My protein is going to make up 40% of those calories. My carbs are going to make up another 40%. And my fats are going to make up 20%. Those are just numbers. I know that it's really, really triggering to talk about diets and all that good stuff, but I'm just giving you an example. So bear with me. And let's just say also, I'm going to do weight training 3 times a week. I'm going to do cardio 3 times a week. I've decided how I'm going to do it, when I'm going to do it, all that good stuff. Still a 50% failure rate. Isn't that crazy? Now, here's where we start to get closer and closer to a passing grade, at least. 65%. Does that sound any better? It doesn't sound much better to me because it's still a failing grade. But if you want a 65% success rate, you just got to tell somebody. You just go, you call somebody up, one of your buddies, like, hey man, I just want to let you know, I'm going to start training 3 times a week with weights. I'm going to start doing cardio 3 times a week. I'm going to stay within 2,100 calories. 40% is going to come from protein. 40% is going to come from carbs, 20% from fat. And I'm going to lose 30 pounds by April 30th. Going to get the best shape of my life ever in 2025. 65% success rate. Now, here's where you ratchet in your A+, right? Your 95% success rate. It's one thing to call your buddy, or it's another thing to make a social post of like, hey, I'm going to do this. Or it's another thing if I go knock on my neighbor's door and say, hey man, I'm going to go do this thing. This is how I'm going to do it, the whole 9 yards. But you know what? I don't want 65%, and neither do you. You want to be a part of the 9% of people that successfully navigate whatever it is you want to go out and achieve, whether that's building more wealth, whether that's starting a new business, whether that's you want to take your wife out on 52 dates in the year of 2025, 1 date per week. Or if you just want to get fitter, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. The way to get to 95% is to have a weekly check-in with an accountability person, group, or coach. That will get you to the 95%. Because why is that? When we have people to answer to, we are not going to let them down. We might let ourselves down, but we don't want to let anybody else down. We don't want to tell somebody else, hey, I've given up, or hey, I didn't do whatever it is I told you I was going to do. When we tell somebody else, I'm going to do this thing over the next 7 days, and then we have to meet with them a week later, guess what? You have a 95% success rate of actually executing. Here's the other really cool thing too. While this sounds self-serving, I'm just going to share it with you. This is what we do in the Dad Edge Alliance. We do this for guys with their fitness. We do this for guys with their marriage. You want better communication, connection with your wife? We're going to teach you those skills, and we're going to hold you accountable to do those things. If you want to be a more patient, resilient father that takes his kids out and teaches them life lessons, well, guess what? We are going to absolutely hold you accountable to do those things as well. If you want to build more wealth, if you want to pay down debt, we're going to do that too. We are here to be your accountability group. Whether you join us in the Alliance or not, it doesn't really matter. What I want you to do is go out and find your tribe. Go out and find your accountability group. Because when we do that, we can achieve 95% success rate. Remember, it's meeting with someone on a weekly basis. And it's not just meeting with anybody. It's meeting with someone who's like-minded, somebody who has your best interest at heart, somebody who's going to push you when you need to be pushed, somebody you can actually push when they need to be pushed. This is not just you getting pushed. This is a mutual thing. Accountability is not something we just get, we also give it as well. So my hope for you in 2025, whatever it is you set out to do this year, do it with everything that you have. Do it the smart way. Set up all of these good things so that you can be successful in 2025. Go out, live legendary, and have one hell of a 2025.